body will be a source of very different. Whether depends on how big it is, where it is, what you're doing that makes it better or worse.
Okay, group. Let us forge ahead.
Here we go. Class come to order.
Well, there are some who are not in a dingable position here.
That's a nice thing. Beautiful. Beautiful thing.
Sure. Remember how Mussolini used to go?
He would make some point that he thought was really great report when he'd do that. Of course you will understand.
What can I tell you? Hey, look at the source. Hey. He had,
his form of I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
That's it. He was a Leo. The Scorpio rising.
Oh, jeez, that's a combination for him.
Yeah, that's it.
Little Duce.
Hey. Okay, all that I've said here about the dweller on the threshold of the path between the two great kingdoms, we have to keep on remembering who the dweller is. The fourth and the fifth can be studied by the student with a personal application. In other words, our own personal dweller, our own personal fourth and fifth kingdom. Facing each earnest aspirant to the mysteries is that vitalized form which he himself has constructed and nourished during the course of his previous incarnation. Vitalized form. And which represents the sum total of his evil, desires, motives, and thoughts. Nice that they all kind of hang together and don't go away, right?
If you were to say his lunar desires, motives, and thoughts, would that be equivalent, do you think, or is that too soft?
Well, we're told that the white magician never uses the lunar forces, he never uses the sacral center, and that there is disease in the body when the lunar forces are used and not the solar forces. I think that lunar magic and evil are pretty close. For ages, it has vampirized him. We have created our own little self-revitalizing vampire, and for ages it has represented that which he has failed to achieve. And we're carrying around with us this memento of failure. It affects not only himself, but all those units whom he contacts and meets, so we have a debilitating effect upon each other according to this dweller. We're all two, we're all Gemini, we're all dual. In this destruction he has to pursue methods similar to those followed by the great ones, and so we could just reread what the other stuff was, find out how to apply it ourselves. Each of us has to destroy our own dweller, and through the increasing power of the solar angel, through the force of his ego. Notice he seems to differentiate them. Sometimes he seems to equate them, but I've tried to explain at least how I view that. Through the increasing power of the solar angel, through the force of his ego, and through a study of law, Atma, the knowledge of the power of sound, and the control of speech, he will eventually bring about its disintegration. In other words, you might say, he builds anew. And he also speaks the words which take the energy away from it. It can no longer survive. Let the disciple turn his attention to the enunciating of those sounds which echo in the halls where walks the master. Let him not sound those lesser notes which awaken vibration within the hall of Maya. So it takes away certain sounds, just don't nourish this dweller. But if they are notes that are sounding in the veils of Maya, they do nourish the dweller. So we really have to be very discriminating there. Every moment of every day, we have a choice with every breath, with every word, what we're going to do next, and it's either going to build or destroy or just hold the same pattern. It requires a lot of alertness, doesn't it? For a second by second, minute by minute choice of what we will do or say or even think, for that matter. The old commentary says, the solar angel must put out the light of the lunar angels, and then for the lack of warmth and light, that which has served to hinder no longer is. It says it so essentially, so beautifully. Kind of wonder, how was the old commentary written? When was it written? There's many different aspects to it. Has it been stored in Shambhala lo these many years, or has it sometimes appeared later? You know, he talks about stanzas which are even older than the sense are. The seeds of philosophy stanzas are older than the sense are. Okay. As yet, the few members of the human family work deliberately and consciously in mental matter only. So maybe 10%, 15%, and I'm sure that we can find a lot that's kama monastic in our own thinking. This energy exerted by men is mostly kama monastic, or desire coupled with the lower mind. He said the two fail to act independently. They are linked. By the way, Venus is the symbol of kama manas. Interesting. Mercury is not. Venus is. So, you know, with both Venus and Sirius, mind and emotion work together. Sirius is cosmic mental and cosmic astral, and Venus is mental and astral. It can be the solar plexus center of our solar logos. So the energy exerted by men is mostly kama monastic, or desire coupled with lower mind, with a preponderance that might be expected of desire force. So that's what we're dealing with right now. And if we don't raise the educational standard, we will retard everything.
Meaning our schools?
Meaning our schools. I mean, you know, we're on our way down. The minute we forget that we are meant to be in the Aryan race, a monastic race. We cultivate the mind. You know what DK said? He said, put the billions or millions, whatever he said, that are now going into weapons, put it into education or else. He basically said that, or else. And I mean, in other words, he was talking about the way that the next great war could be averted. And he said, put the billions into education. Because, you know, what do we have but a benighted consciousness running around believing what it wants to believe because it has no light of reason. The enlightenment is gone. It doesn't exist in the eyes of these people who believe as they believe. Okay, this is to be inferred from the second statement. The whole trend of evolution is to bring about ability to build in mental matter. That's what we're getting ready to study. We're doing it all the time. And two things lie ahead of the race. Okay, first, lying ahead of the race. The gradual dissipation of the indefinite masses of kama monastic matter which surround practically every unit of the human family, producing a condition of murkiness and fog within and around each aura, and that's us. Okay? Kama monastic stuff around us, without that clarity, that illumination, that brilliance of the soul, we have to dissipate this. This is going to be, you know, when the great glamours are dissipated, and we can use the technique of light by DK even now and attempt to do this. It's just such a wonderful meditation and so detailed and, you know, so tough to master in a way and yet so effective. First of all, you have to find your glamour and figure out what it's taken away from your life. And the amazing thing about glamour is it's not very visible. You know, to you, everyone else can tell you where it is, no problem. Okay. Gradually this will clear away and men will be seen surrounded by clear-cut thought forms. This will come in with the seventh ray because he says that the thought forms which the seventh ray produces are extremely clear, very definite. Add to this the fifth ray of Aquarius, you can have a lot of definite thought forms. Illusion could be our problem because some of these definite thought forms could be definitely wrong. Okay. Clear away, and men will be seen by these thought forms characterized by a distinctive vibration and distinguished by a particular quality incident to a man's ray and therefore to his type of mind. Well, we know the old story. The monadic ray influences the mind, the soul ray, the astral body, and the physical, and the personality ray, the physical body. So if I said physical, I meant emotional. Okay, so it goes mental, physical, mental, emotional, physical, monad, soul, personality. Okay. So whatever your ray may be, your monadic ray emphasizes or works through your mental ray. It's going to be in your mind. The monadic ray is going to be in your mind. And probably those who can, you know, kind of see what's going on, they can tell by how you think what is your monadic ray. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's right there that I can show you the reference, but I won't stop for it right now. Okay? And they can also look in your etheric body and see the same. And maybe they can look in your astral body and see what is the reflection of the soul.
Are you saying that they will see the ray per se that is working through your mental body plus the other like overlapping like the...
Yes, it will definitely affect it, regardless of what may be your mental ray. I mean, you have a monad that doesn't change rays, and you have all these different cyclically mental bodies, but your monadic ray affects your mental body.
And the personality ray, the physical body.
Yes, and that was I brought it up before, but there was a certain man who was a Taurus. He thought he had a first ray physical body, and it was very strong. Turned out he had a first ray personality, which was overlying his third ray physical body with his first ray energy, making him think he had a first ray physical body. So all of these overlaps and blending, it's hard to take it all apart, but we got to know the rules, right? Okay, so what is it we're talking about? What lies ahead? Two things lie ahead of the race. So we're going to dissipate this murk, right? And second, the aggregate of human thought forms which are now of personal character, vibrating around each human being as planets vibrate around the sun. You think he's just using a figure of speech, but I'll bet there's something hidden in it. Will tend to approximate a group center. Thought energy, which now emanates from each human being as a comparatively weak stream of an indefinite conglomeration of mental matter, of no particular character, forming no particularly distinct forms, and persisting in animating those forms for but a brief period, will be directed towards the creation of that which is desired by the group, and not solely towards that desired by the unit. The energy of thought is for the good of all and for the furtherance of the plan. So you don't use it for selfish purposes. So we're going to learn how to be group thinkers. Now obviously Venus will help with that, because Venus gives us that sense of response to group vibration, or is that what it's called? Response to group, is that it? Yes, response to group vibration on the second subplane, the Venus subplane. Really, if you want to know how to improve your life, just get Venus into it. That, occultly speaking. We've got too much Mars, we need Venus. That's where the balance is right now. This is the basis very largely for the antagonism that all constructive thinkers and group workers encounter. They want to go with the group, and people want to go with themselves. The stream of energy which they emanate and which constructs vital thought forms runs counter to that of the masses of men. It's against the moon, it's against Mars, it's against the lunar vehicles. Awakens opposition and produces temporary chaos. The result of this is that the fourth initiation, humanity throws you out, spits you out. He was rejected, he was despised, rejected among men. I don't know, is that Isaiah or whatever? It's from the Messiah. So when you reach the fourth degree, even though you're there to save the fourth group, they just spit you out because they don't tolerate your vibration, which contributes to your freedom, naturally. It all works out. You may have to give up your lower elementals in an unpleasant manner, but somehow, eventually you stand free. Okay. Okay. The prominent workers and thinkers of the human family under the direct direction of the Lodge are engaged in three things. Under the direct direction of the Lodge, you might say, on the thread. That's the high point of being under the direct direction. You know you're being directed. Others are being directed and they don't know they're being directed. Right? If you're on the thread, you know what the ashram is, you know what it wants, you're being directed. But other people are subconsciously responsive to direction, but they don't know the source of it. Right? Okay. So these thinkers in the human race are engaged in three things. I'm going fast now, but I think we can handle it. Just so we can get into the other stuff. The imposition of the newer and higher rhythms upon men. It's all reconditioning according to rhythm. This is the seventh ray period. The dissipation of the murky clouds of half-vitalized... No. Wait a second. I went back. Is it possible that the same thing was repeated twice? It is. And I didn't even notice it last time. Okay, where are we? Okay. Conditions upon the physical plane. Is this where we are? Okay. Then also ahead. The awakening within men of the power to think clearly, to energize their thought forms accurately, and to hold in vital form those thought constructions whereby they may obtain their objective and bring about desired conditions upon the human physical plane. Well, you have to become a thinker. We are already the thinker, and we have to become the little thinker. On the higher mental plane, we are the thinker, and we have to be the thinker on the lower mental plane with the mind held steady in the light. In other words, there's nothing wrong in the Aryan race with teaching people how to think. But to be mentally polarized is a different matter. It doesn't mean just being able to think. Because if you can think very, very well, and your thoughts are being run by your emotions, you are not mentally polarized. Your thoughts have to be run by your soul. And then you are truly mentally polarized midway between the second and third initiation. And not before. That means the serious has won the day.
Say that again. Your thoughts have to be run by the soul.
If you're going to be mentally polarized, midway between the second and third initiation, and not before. Meaning, if you say just because you're a good thinker you're mentally polarized, it's not necessarily true. It means that you are being affected by the soul on its own plane, and soul light is affecting your thought process to such an extent that you can pass the three temptations in the desert. The world, the flesh, and the devil. And only then are you mentally polarized. So it's a very different definition of mental polarization than we usually think. Oh, he's always in his head, person's only thinking and can't feel anything, whatever, that's mental polarized. That's not it.
So which are the three temptations in the desert?
The world, the flesh, and the devil. The world, the flesh, and the devil.
When you say the world...
The world is ray 3, the flesh is ray 2, and the devil is ray 1.
Yeah.
Well, get thee behind me, Satan, and all of that.
Yeah.
Man does not live by bread alone, but by the very word that cometh out of the mouth of God. And it is written, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. There's the various statements there when the devil tempts him 3 times and he says, no. And, he says Christ had a first-rate mind. And he did not answer the devil with the wordy dispositions of the concrete mind. He just says, straight comment. Straight sentence. And when you read the Bible, you are impressed by the first-rate mind of the Christ. I just can't believe how straight he is sometimes, I just can't believe it. He answers in direct statements which are carrying law. They're carrying Atma. His first-rate mind is carrying Atma. It's so necessary. And think about it. The red letter, you're reading the red letter in the Bible, right? These statements are so impactful. They're not like, philosophy or something. Nothing wrong with philosophy, but, it's the Christ knew it, so he just said it, Okay. All right, so the power to think. So these 3 things are happening under the direction of the lodge. The workers are engaged in a new and higher rhythm, dispersing the murky clouds, helping people think clearly. Are we engaged in those 3 things? Are we definitely helping people think more clearly? Our work, people of our type, there are many types of work, but DK recommends that we better work with the intelligentsia because they are the next bridge. So if we cannot affect the intelligentsia, we lose tremendous power because they are the ones who are supposed to carry the thing the next step forward. And if we affect only people who are gullible, who just believe what you say or what I say or what anybody says, there is no power in it. We have to be persuasive. We have to meet people who have all of these mental objections to what we say, and we have to be equally mental in answering their objections and take them still a step further. And we have to do that, There's not much time left. These 3 objectives necessitate a clear comprehension among such vital thinkers and workers of the power of thought. A vital comprehension of the power of thought, of the direction of thought currents, of the science of thought building, of the manipulation under law and order of mental matter, and of the process of thought manifestation through the 2 factors of sound and vitalization. Now, you can vitalize via sound, but obviously there are other ways of creating vitalization. He tells us actually a little bit later that when you are engaged in contemplation, you are engaged in vitalization and transmutation. So if you're holding something here and you're getting inside of it, and you have a very steady inner gaze, and it's getting stronger and stronger, and you're identifying with this thing, you are vitalizing it, and you are transmuting it at the same time. So he tells us basically when the soul has its eye on us, it is transmuting us. In other words, the gaze transmutes, which is a very interesting idea. How do you actually change something? It's looking at it in the right way. and right under your eye, the thing changes. That's really magic. Okay, so these three objectives necessitate comprehension among such vital thinkers of the power of thought. So if we're going to be able to do these things, awaken in people the power to think, dissipate the murky clouds, impose a new and higher rhythm, we've got to be able to have power in our thought, direction of our thought. We have to know how to build and manipulate. We have to know how to use sound and vitalization. It's all very scientific, isn't it? Think. Sound.
Speak properly.
Well, that's part of it. Every word getting its proper intonation, its true value, its true meaning. He says this is the process of thought manifestation through sound and vitalization. So its madfriends are part of it, but also on a lower level, just what you say. True, clear, appropriate, well-intoned speech.
Without the astral force on it.
Yeah, and somehow very appropriate to the thought that's being conveyed. Doesn't he tell us that if we don't have good speech, our idea that we're trying to convey just is not going to work. Not going to come through. He tells us about this in the Glamour book. How you have to embody in speech, in the right speech, your idea. Clothe it in the right way, right? Okay. He's giving us so many requirements we might wonder how we could ever pull it off. It involves likewise the ability to negate or render futile all impulses arising from the lower self which are of a centralized and purely personal aspect. That's why I asked this morning in the meditation, how can we negate these impulses which build thought forms strictly from the physical plane? Strictly from the, I'm wondering how many times in my life I said, I'm tired. Oh, I'm too tired. I'm really tired. A lot more of the time than I say I feel great, but those are both inspired from my vitality level, aren't they? I don't feel good. I feel ill at ease. I feel uncomfortable. These are all inspired from my emotional level, right? I'm not getting along with that person. I don't like that person. I like that person. Likes and dislikes, all from the emotional level. All right. So we have to learn how to negate all of these lower impulses. This is a lot of the New Age movement doesn't like discipline. Doesn't like control, doesn't like the masculine side of it. It's gone swung very much on the other side. Everything is permissive, Let it happen. But occultists don't just let it happen. Okay. Okay, and the faculty of working in group form, each thought being sent upon the definite mission of adding its quota of energy and matter to the one stream which is specific and known. That's your ashramic stream. You're in the ashram now, you're not behind the cloud. There's an old song about the army. You'll never get rich by digging a ditch. You're in the ashram now. Okay. So, anyway, there's a stream, a quota of energy here. And you know who you're with. You know what's trying to happen. And you add your thought to that. It's very specific. It's very definite. It takes us away from this vague, meandering, thing that we can do when we're tired or our point of tension is perhaps, as DK says, a bit lower than it should be. Nicely, he says. This last is of importance, for no worker for humanity becomes of real assistance until he, consciously and with full knowledge of his work, definitely directs his thought energy towards some particular channel of service for the race. Well, we're given 10 C groups. We're given 3 departments of hierarchy. We're given the service for the plan thing. There's 7 groups in there. He says something about let the disciple merge himself within the circle of his other selves. Let but one color blend them, and their unity appear. Only when the group is known and sensed can energy be wisely emanated. So we're not just thinking all over the place. We're thinking along a certain line which is really constructive and useful. All these requirements. Okay, there's still more. Let's see, what have we got so far here? We got A, B, C, and D. So A is imposing a higher rhythm. B is disperse the clouds. Isn't that Spain's motto? I disperse the clouds with its 6-ray soul. Talk about Spain will be really influential then in dissipating glamour. Okay. The awakening of men, the power to think clearly, and finally, point D, in all thought form building, Therefore, of a high order, men have several things to do. It's like one list after another, and each subpoint has several points. Okay. First, to purify the lower desires so that they are enabled to see clearly in the occult sense. That makes me think of the third degree when I think of seeing clearly in the occult sense. It's a very Venus thing, very Mercury thing. No man has clear vision who is obsessed with his own needs, actions and interests, and unconscious of that which is higher in the group activity. And I say here, desire blinds. It's all a question of a small ring past knot based on personalism. We can't help but feel what's going on in our personality, but basically Alice Bailey said something I never could understand in the early days. She said we outgrow our personality. We outgrow our personality. When I was 25 years old and reading this, I couldn't get it. What does it mean we outgrow our personality? Somehow our sense of what is real just extends much beyond what is familiar. There's the real and there's the familiar. And that's why I will say, discount the familiar and go for the real. Because the familiar has been around forever. Until we immediately discover that the most real is even more familiar, only we've forgotten it. It's been there all the time. This clear vision brings about an ability to read, even if unconsciously at first, the Akashic records. By the way, that happens on a number of different planes, okay? The reading. And thus ascertain the point of departure for the new and incoming thought impulses. An ability to lose sight of self-interest and group interest and thus cooperate with the plan, and a faculty that enables him to become aware of the keynote of the race and aware of the cry of humanity, presuming that is recognition of the need of humanity, a high psychic ability. To recognize true need is a high psychic ability. So, we could all outline this for ourselves. We could make a list of requirements. There must be a golden key, though, for all these things, You can think of the many, but probably if you had one essential thing which the Christ gave to us, love thy neighbor as thyself. It might just be the golden key to all of this. Maybe everything would fall into place. All right. Next, there's still more. To secure control over the mind. This involves certain important things. A realization of the nature of the mind and brain through concentration, an understanding of the relation which should exist between the physical brain and man, the real thinker on the physical plane, and an ability gradually developed once the mind is brought under clear control through concentration, to meditate in the occult sense and thus bring through the plans from higher levels, ascertain his individual share in the plan, and then cooperate in the work of some particular group of mnemonic eyes. I love sentences like this. They are just complete summary of what we have to do. Concentration is Leo, meditation is Virgo, contemplation is Libra. We've got to get it, the ego, right down into the physical plane, the physical brain. And then the plan can be enacted, and then we can be a true white magician. So, what does it say? The thinker, his thought, and that which is the means of thought are diverse in their nature, yet one in ultimate reality. This is the sixth counsel. So you realize the thinker, his thought, and that which is the means of thought are diverse in their nature, yet one in ultimate reality. And who does this? Those upon the fifth ray. They have three minds that are uniting, and the fifth ray are always merging and blending the three. Okay. This is succeeded by consideration of the laws of energy. A man discovers how to build a thought form of a particular quality and tone, to energize it with his own life, and thus have on mental levels a small creation, a child of his will, that's Leo, offspring, fifth house, which he can use as a messenger or a means for the manifestation of an idea. You send your thought, it has a message, or you actually ground it and it starts to build up a form which is in line with the plan. Students would do well to consider these points with care if they seek to become, and now he gives you a magical term, conscious operators. Magical operation. I know some magical controls. He's setting us up to be an operator. usually it has kind of a pejorative meaning. He's a real operator, you know what I mean? He's an operator, you know? Meaning he's using the power of manipulation. But this is manipulation used in the right way. Wow, it sounds like we have a lot to do between today and tomorrow morning, doesn't it? Assimilate all this. We're getting to the end now. We're doing fine. Finally, having constructed a thought form, the next thing the servant of humanity has to learn. Notice how he throws these in, gives you a lot of synonyms for the magician. The servant of humanity is to learn how to set it on its mission, whatever that may be, holding it through his own vital energy and due form. In other words, a magician had better be a vital being. Otherwise, what he produces is not going to remain coherent. There's got to be enough vitality to hold your products in creation. Whatever it may be, holding it through his own vital energy in due form, keeping it vibrating to its own measure. Don't compromise your thought form. Keep its note pure, and eventually bringing about its destruction when it has fulfilled its mission. Now, you know what's really funny is Master Moria says thought is indestructible. And DK is always talking about how to destroy your thought forms once they're finished. But I think that what Moria means is that idea is indestructible. The true products of the cosmic etheric plane, the true ideas are indestructible. Thought forms, you can destroy them, I think. The average man is often the victim of his own thought forms. Obsession, right? He constructs them, but is neither strong enough to send them out to do their work, nor wise enough to dissipate them when required. So if you can't send out what you create, it stays at home with you. Just like a child who should have left home, but instead blames his parents. So having one of those thought forms stay at home with you is a devitalizing experience, as I'm sure many parents who would like to get out and live their own life discover when the child won't leave home. Okay. This is brought about by this, wise enough, this has brought about this thick, swirling fog of half-formed, semi-vitalized forms in which 85% of the human race is surrounded. Are you free of half-formed, semi-vitalized forms which actually degenerate into poisonous gas in the mental sense and thereby suffocate us? Yes.
But you can see now, so that's something we were saying earlier in a different context, how after the Second World War especially, when you had this very clear clarification of good and evil, you might say.
Yes.
How, I'm guessing this percentage would be changed to some degree. People got much clearer about what should be good and what it isn't. And all the teaching that's gone on, even before then, but since then, just in terms of this issue of what we call dimension, the manifestation.
You hope the number is now a little lower.
3%?
Yeah. Well, we're in the balances at the moment, and Libra's getting stronger in our planet. We have a big decision ahead of us, don't we?
Yeah.
Humanity has a big decision. And, it could be 300 more years or even some thousands of years reinitiated into the mysteries of Earth, as he says in the Taurus chapter.
Yeah. Meaning
negative materialism, a delay with Saturn in Aquarius being the first decade, or we could go ahead. If the disciples of the world can rise to the occasion. That's the point. That's on all of us. That's a big burden on our shoulders.
It seems like to get mass support, the masses have to have in very recent memory and experience to where it's still painful how much suffering is out there if you don't take the responsibility. But as that fades into the rearview mirror, they start being guided by that principle that you stated earlier about people being so resistant to being elevated to a level of responsibility.
I just want to indulge whatever is the immediate thing, eat, drink, and be merry and all that. That's why this latest stuff about Holocaust denial is really interesting. Because it's just a big thing. Of course, so many people died in the camps and all that. But the great Holocaust did occur. And the people who are denying it are just setting up another one. That's how it really works. And maybe even be reincarnated aspects of those who were present before. So I'm very concerned about forgetfulness. Because man does forget.
But look how enthusiastic we were and idealistic we were about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the United Nations and the Security Council and all of that. And now you can hardly get anybody in authority to say anything good about the international community. It's all, oh golly, our sovereignty is under attack.
Sure. And that's why all of us better not get old.
We're working on that.
So even if people are not assuming positions of quote-unquote authority, what I am seeing is women at the grassroots level, not in big, powerful positions, but just saying, hey, we're going to do this. And they start helping one another, microfinance, taking on sexual trafficking. And they're not big, important people, and they don't quit.
Okay.
So something
that's beautiful, beautiful thing. And, you know, Master M says that it's the women that are bringing in the new age, you know, and we just need more women like that in some of the homes of these sort of ignorant patriarchal types to just say, I'm sorry, honey, you know.
But it's money that makes the difference, Michael. When they're in an ignorant man's home, if they can have a little money and start earning, and then look at them and say, oh my God, you know, you are worth something. You can bring in a few bucks. I mean, that sounds very gross.
I know.
But that's how it's worked. I mean, that's in Africa, you see the same.
You have the same?
Microfinance enables women to take over their own life power.
Well, Venus is a financial planet.
Right.
So, all right. Well, you know, there's hope, and you know, as you showed in that, who's the guy? You know, that had that long list of positive organizations that it would take 3 days. Hawkins or Hawkins, So there's just wonderful things happen, but none of us can rest back. This is the point. But we are so few who have this vision of what may be possible. We just have to give our all and find the intelligent way to do it, you know, in the years remaining. Yeah.
I can't recall if it's DK, and I kind of think maybe not, but the idea is certainly there that in the inner worlds it's a matter of quality and not so much quantity. That what from an outward perspective may look like a small measure, depending on its quality, can have vast power on the soul plane.
Yeah, well, it's I mean, it could be any one of them, but Moria says something like the wave of a feather is like thunder in the inner higher worlds, in the fiery worlds. So just it's just like a huge reverberating sound. So that's it. Of course, quality comes first, doesn't it? So is the quality of life. Absolutely, it comes first. At the same time, you know, we have to put together fire by friction with solar fire, and we have to have the spiritual will. So I don't know what it takes to animate more of the spiritual, esoteric people in the world. And, you know, because everybody thinks they're working at their full throttle, and DK says you're working at 60%, maybe. And he says, and your points of tension are extended all over your body and all over your life, and you think, you know, you're getting the most out of yourself, and you're not. So what does it take?
I think we all think we're more advanced than we really are.
Yeah. So, okay, agreed. And whether we're advanced or not advanced, we've just got to give what we've got, really.
But if you're not advanced, you can't give all that much. I mean,
but you can give what you got. You know what I mean? And I'm saying that even not that is happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing is support groups, and as DK says, there's mailing lists, i.e. emails and internet and keeping things together.
Sure.
I'd like to propose that. That's all well and good and part of the new thing, but having a physical place where people will get together for work, not just for a conference, but to actually work on projects together in triads or you know, quads or something like that.
Sure.
I don't want to say too much about this, but all I can think about is buying the house next door and the house across the street from here, so that we can
well, the Occult University.
people down, so then we could get together and work together, meaning, and what does that mean? Well, there's on many different levels, creating videos, meditating on etheric levels together, as they do at the Mount, but to do it on a daily basis, to take away the physical needs of those disciples.
But don't overlook the electronic coming together as well, because that can be quite amazing now too. You know, when you're meditating with somebody, you just turn on your Skype machine, and you're there together. There's really no time and space here. You know, so we have to look for the cheap way to do these things too. And I often say about a university, you know, it has to be built from the top down, or you know, any true internal hierarchical representation. You have to have the quality on the higher planes, and then these other things materialize. So outer getting together is very good, and when DK had his ashram group in the New York City for quite a number of years, the requirement was they had to live there. They had to, those 14 people had to live in New York City, so there was a certain togetherness on the physical plane because he was going to externalize his ashram in New York City, or an aspect of his ashram. But in this day of the Internet, there are many ways to get together, and we have to take advantage of these things, where we can be in the presence of each other on a regular basis, cheap. You know what I mean? We don't have to drag our body around, we don't have to live in hotels, motels, or whatever. We can be together in that way, and I'd be really interested in talking to you about those telecommunications responsibilities. Okay, look, I'd like to finish this little bit here, so we can say we've done one section, okay? In his work as a thought builder, man has to show forth the characteristics of the Logos, the great architect or builder of the universe. He has to parallel his work as. So he's always comparing solar Logos, planetary Logos, with how man builds, okay? The one who conceives the idea, the one who clothes the idea in matter, which is also words are matter, remember? The one who energizes the idea and thus enables the form to preserve its outline and preserve its mission. The one who in time and space, through desire and love, directs the thought form, vitalizes it continuously until the objective is attained. The one who, when the desired end has been accomplished, destroys or disintegrates the thought form by withdrawing his energy. Occultly, the attention is withdrawn, or the eye is no longer upon it. We lose interest, it falls apart. Take our eyes off, falls apart. So that the lesser lives, who had been held together by the eye, which had been built into the desired form, fall away and return to the general reservoir of Deva substance. So these 5 things we have to do. He has to parallel his work, and the great architect does this as well. The one who conceives the idea, the one who clothes the idea in matter, and that's done on the mental plane at first, but choosing the right word to represent your idea is also clothing it in matter. The one who energizes the idea, and you can do that with your eye also, and with your desire nature. The one who directs the idea in a well-motivated manner, directs the thought form through desire and love. Vitalizes it continuously, you keep your eye on it. And the one who finally destroys the idea. So all of us involved in the creative process, it's all about recreativity, have to go through these various phases. All of us, I assume, are trying to become manifestors in various ways. We each do our bit in manifesting the planet, in different ways. All right. So keep your eye on the ball, you know. Keep your eye on the project that you want to see sustained. Otherwise, it will just, and you know, when it's lost its value, if you keep your eye on it, you know, you just obsess about it, and drains your energy, and the time for the idea is gone. It's no good. So you have to learn when to avert your eye as well, when to turn away. That's what the solar Logos did. You know, in other words, energize me, help me, said the planetary Logos, and the solar Logos seemed not to hear and turned his face. Because he says, the job's too tough for me, and the solar Logos is saying, no, it isn't.
I was talking about that as we learn to work in groups and not so much individually, and we work in groups to perform the creative process. I was thinking maybe some people will be more specialized in one of those 5 aspects and others in others. You have like the destroyer, you have like the ones that have the inspiration, as we work in group like that individual. Yeah,
it makes sense. It makes sense very much. It makes sense. But you know, in a way, everybody has everything. It's just a question of the proportion of it. I mean, there's no such person that doesn't have all the planets, all the signs, all the rays. There's no such thing as a 2-dimensional object in 3-dimensional space. We've all got all the dimensions. So we just have to know where we're best cut out, where we're best suited, and then cooperate with people who can do the other stuff. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thus, in all creative work in mental matter, man is likewise to be seen as a trinity at work. He is the creator, the preserver, the destroyer. That's the main point here, right? You can't just be an architect. What's to do it? It never, it might not even get created. And once it is created, what if it disappears? It's got to be preserved. And once it's preserved, it might be over-preserved. The time for it might go. Get out of the way so something new can happen. And in our life, we all have that. We have a bunch of ideas that are still in the way, and they're preventing something new from happening. That clutter, around us. So that's where Pluto comes in, and Uranus, and some of these hardline planets to clear stuff out of the way so something new can happen. All right. Point E. In all occult work in mental matter, which has to manifest upon the physical plane and thus achieve objectivity, man has to work as a unit. Now that implies integration, doesn't it? This infers the ability, therefore, of the threefold lower man to be subordinated to the ego, so that the dynamic will of the ego may be imposed upon the physical brain. And this is such a dynamite statement, That's how far down it has to come. The physical brain. From the ego to the physical brain. And we have to know when that ego is getting through to us as the lower man right here. The method of the man upon the physical plane who is engaged in conscious work in mental matter is to be considered in two divisions. First, the initial process of alignment with the ego, so that the plan, purpose, and method of achievement may be impressed upon the physical brain. So all of our meditation, kind of moves forward to the point of impression. And then a secondary process in which the man, using the physical brain consciously, proceeds to carry out the plan, construct through will and purpose the necessitated form, and then, having built and energized the form, to keep his eye upon it. Now at this point, we started to bring in the 6 stages of the act of will by Roberto Saggioli. Some of you are familiar with that in his book, The Act of Will, and he shows you how you start from the beginning and work it all the way through in just 6 simple stages. So first, to be impressed, and then to construct the necessitated form and keep our eye upon it, always trying to serve the plan as we do so. This is stating occultly, the great truth back of all process of energizing. The eye of the Lord is much referred to in the Christian Bible, and occultly understood, the eye is that which brings power to its servant, the thought form. Boy, that's wonderful. When you want to make a bridge between what's going on in the Bible and what's going on here. The eye of the Lord, well, that's the all-seeing eye, and that's our third eye, and the thought form is our servant. So we have to learn how to conceive, build, sustain, direct, and finally withdraw the energy from the thought form. Okay, but we're still in the constructive era, We're not the destroyers now, They came in at a certain point. We are the ones who are supposed to be building up the shrine of the new age. And we still have some constructive time to go. The second ray is not withdrawn entirely in its 500-year cycle until 2075. So this is a constructive period. All right. Scientists are becoming interested in the power of the human eye and that faculty of control and of recognition which is everywhere seen as existing, will have its scientific and occult explanation when it is studied as an instrument of initiatory energy. And this is sort of there is certainly the receptive power of the eye, and there is the directing power of the eye. There's probably also something called the manipulating power of the eye, where you can kind of arrange things with the eye. Therefore, it will be apparent that a thought form is the result of 2 types of energy. That emanating in the first instance from the ego on the abstract levels, and that's the true magician. There is no magician unless the ego initiates the act of magic. And that originating in a secondary sense from the man on the physical plane through the medium of the brain. And 2 creators are at work. So the solar angel collects himself, scatters not his force, but in meditation deep communicates with his reflection, and then the shadow responds, and both work together. So, we have to really be aligned when we're doing our creative work. Whatever we're trying to do for the world, we've got to be aligned. Okay. that men do not recognize the first factor as a general rule is that which is responsible for much that is evil. So we have to point out to everybody that there is a true director within oneself, and they have to align with that director. That requires a little bit of humility, doesn't it? You know, anybody who's giving up something to a higher power, even an AA or whatever it is, it requires some humility. Some people are just this big, glorious ego, they say, I'm going to do it myself. But then you're out of alignment with what's trying to happen. When the science of the self is assumed due proportions, men will be careful to ascertain the egoic impulses in all thought process, and to utilize true egoic energy before they begin manipulating Deva substance and building forms of Davic life. So the main thing is align with your ego, and we've been given the methods of occult meditation which make that possible. Then the ego comes down and can make us impressed.
Why the small e for ego?
Don't look for consistency.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, egoic is correct, you know, because that's an adjective.
Yeah.
But sometimes the word, egoic is okay. When they turn in an adjective, you never preserve the big. But sometimes he just says ego, and you know it's what he means.
Yeah, the consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our soul. Yeah, exactly. That center, which all of us live in and are living in even right now on the higher mental plane, we are right there right now. If we could quiet everything down right here, right now, we would find our livingness in the ego, which has always been going on, even though we've been carrying on all kinds of other activities. Okay, so today we have discussed thought form building, and tomorrow I think, I think we've done enough of the Black Lodge. I don't know if you... He has a lot of interesting things to say. We'll see. But maybe we'll just begin tomorrow. We'll see how it goes on the rules. And let's just see any points of real interest. Any points of real interest for you? Anything sticking? Anything sticking for you?
The power of correct speech.
Okay. Let me just put this here in just a little quick thing here. Okay, the power of correct speech. Okay, just anything. We assemble the materials and see if some synthetic point of view has been created.
And in that line, the holding of incorrect thoughts, not bringing them into speech, the importance of holding.
And not bringing them to speech and action.
And action.
Means you do not swell the dweller.
You do not swear.
Swell. Dweller swells. Well, you know how it goes. You can swell a lot of things, and you don't want to swell your dweller. I just have to do quickly this, make this a little more clear. Yeah, okay. So, you don't entertain, and you don't entertain bad thought, In other words, DK says, kick it out. And substitute good thought, whatever. No. And we're discussing that. So let the soul control. Yeah, and that's the solar angel. Okay. A solar angelic mantra. The mantra. Soul luminary, microcosmic, whatever, microcosmic sky. Yeah, rule 5. Okay.
The difference between the solar angel and the guardian angel as being a reflection of the solar angel or the angel of the sun.
It is in the ego.
Okay, and solar angel also distinct from ego, which remains as the triad. And there are places where you can, when he tells us that egos came in on the first, second, and third ray in early Earth chain times, he's talking about the monad. Why? Because an ego cannot come in on the first, second, or third ray, because all incarnating beings begin on the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th ray, including their personalities. So when the ego comes in on the first, second, and third ray, it's got to be the monad. See, so, by inference you can tell that he doesn't mean that. Obviously, the major monadic stuff is going to come in the next installment. After 2025. Right now, we have a lot of inferences that lead us to understand. Yes.
The morning meditation is discriminating where the thought forms come from.
Right, exactly. Well, we have to ask, when we've been talking here, where have a lot of them are intellectual, like finding the references and comparing and all that, but they also contain a greater vision than the concrete mind alone can afford. So perhaps there's a little bit of the Buddhi going on too, but things have to get pretty quiet for Buddhi sometimes. We've got a lot of Mercury going here, and they have to get quite still for Atma, so, when you're in Atma, you don't say a lot. But what you say is a real word of power,
I like the concept of Buddhi wilting illusion.
Buddhi wilts illusion. Yeah, exactly. I think it's very true. Wilts.
It's interesting, yeah.
Well, he gives it to us. Or watch, we might say, droop. That's another word. The hydra droops for lack of vitality. When held, now, what are you doing? You're not, somehow a Buddhic stream is allowing you to see what this thing really is. That's what it means to lift it up there. And to keep it lifted up means to sustain the Buddhic stream on the illusion until it's dispelled. You might say, I've seen so much, I just can't get involved with that anymore. See, that's what it boils down to. Yeah.
What about true ideals?
Yeah. And let's see, all...
Ideals.
Ideals. All planes of the cosmic ethers are archetypal planes. Because he basically always tells you that even right down here, for your physical body, your etheric body is the archetype. So if you go higher onto the cosmic ethers, then we're looking for the cosmic ethers as the archetype. I just want to locate this for a second. Maybe I won't worry about it right now. I'll save it later. Anything else? Anything else that stuck with you today?
Well, the difference between the shadow and the reflection.
Yeah. And so no infrastructure in the shadow. In other words, no detail. Yeah. Good. Okay.
What was that saying about, there's the vampire?
Well, there's a big thought form which hovers above humanity and vampirizes humanity. Well, why does the thought form vampirize? Just think about that for a second. And how does it do that? How does it suck the energy out? How does the wrong thought form suck the energy out?
Inspiring you to think about it all the time.
Yeah, it takes your eye off the ball.
Okay.
The old saying, focus is not bad, dies the efficient.
So keeps your eye off the essential, and the good is not fed. Well, that's one way for sure. And also energy is redirected into false and useless channels.
Yeah, and because
waste.
Man is in relationship to the element of the God, so the man is feeding that life.
It also has a lot more power to begin with than any other thought forms that we have. So it just has the power to stop everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. The bigger takes from the lesser, which is of higher quality.
Energy follows thought.
Okay? I've heard that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We also have a big discussion about is the water in the threshold is shrinking or is still a lot of water for us.
Is it shrinking or is it stronger?
Yeah.
Well, in general, I guess we all have our views on this, but I would just say that our tools for dealing with the dweller are better. We have esoteric psychology now, we have occultism and so forth. We're not just a blind victim of it. At the same time, I try to get across this idea that the brighter the light, the greater the dark. So, I'm sure if you look at what hierarchy is facing in terms of the dweller, it's really big compared to what we have to face. And when you look at what Shambhala is facing, it's even bigger. So those are very intense forms of evil until the entire Black Lodge becomes the dweller on the threshold of humanity's progress into the fifth kingdom. And that's a pretty awful thing.
But the dweller comes, the parts, as humanity is evolving, the part of the dweller, the more sophisticated part, comes also in activity. So we know that in our society, how sophisticated evil means
intelligent evil
stored and works behind the scenes.
Until you get to the Black Lodge itself, which is supremely intelligent, sophisticated evil, without hearts. See? So anyway, we frankly, our major experiences with the dweller lie ahead. We, like I say, we see a claw here and a fang there, but we haven't seen nothing yet. So that's coming when we can really grasp the entirety of it. Until we have to face the whole Black Lodge ourselves. I mean, in group formation. In that 10th rule, he tells you, fortify yourself with the ashram, and now together drive evil back onto the astral plane. You don't try that yourself necessarily.
Creative bundling.
Creative bundling. Creative bundling is a nice thing to remember. Creative bundle. Yes.
Well, and along that line, the difference between how the aspirant stops the disintegration, put it another way, works in the process of disintegration by stopping the feeding of those.
Yes.
Creative content. And the initiate goes about it another way.
The initiate is a conscious assailant. Conscious assailant aggressively working.
One way is somewhat passive, the other is very aggressive.
Yeah, the initiate is just stronger. That's all. At least the aspirant stops doing the wrong thing, and the initiate, having stopped it, moves ahead. Now, the word aggressive is interesting because it means that the initiate does not wait for the dweller to come to it. It goes.
Spiritual forces the action.
Spiritual warriors, assailant forces the action. That's it.
Have you seen about us, that even if when we are working hard, we're not even doing our 60%, or how was that?
Yeah, he said perhaps 60%. And points of tension scattered all over the body. All over our energy system. Scattered all over, okay. So in other words, when we have those poor me moments, when we think we're overburdened, we're apparently not in line with DK's occult perception of what is possible for us. That's so important somehow, because if there are fewer people, then a greater weight rests upon fewer. But we can't complain about it, because even complaint is a waste of energy. I once saw some of those guys in the gold rush in Anchorage. There was movies of them trudging over mountains on their way finally to come down into Alaska where they could pan for the gold. And as they were climbing up that mountain, it was a mountain, there was a long line, hundreds of people, and I think some died along the way and all the rest of it. Absolute silence. Just silence. No one talking to anyone. Why? They didn't have an ounce of energy to waste. It was so difficult. So you can ask yourself about that same kind of thing. We don't have time to say, I can't, my life's overburdened. We don't have time for that.
Also, the elemental substance is irresponsibly responsive.
Yes, that's good.
To energy currents.
Responsive to energy currents?
Yeah.
In other words, direction is not its responsibility. Yeah.
Therefore, they have to be given direction.
Exactly. So we have a major responsibility in directing properly. We are the I in this sense. We are the I, we are the voice. Yeah. Okay.
There's one about the soul of Logos is essentially standing above the dweller and able to make use of the dweller's.
And is able, to incorporate into the plan, the black plan, the Black Lodge. Sorry? Black Lodge.
Right, and the planetary logos is not.
Cannot. Planetary logos cannot do that yet. It's not part of the planetary logos' plan. That's why it's... but you just know, the solar logos is not going to let the planetary logos go down. Why? It's like saying that one of your chakras is going to disappear. You're going to die. It's not going to happen. And to prove that, we remember the statement that in the First World War, in its third year, the solar logos almost intervened. That's like wild, because here we're worried about Shambhala possibly intervening in the next war. When the First World War, the solar logos almost intervened himself, right? So I don't think the solar logos is going to let planetary logos go down, but what might happen to millions of human beings? Remember when DK said, if humanity doesn't do this, it will not survive, nor should it. So we begin to be considered kind of an errant aspect of that has to be corrected like a disease almost, the disease of humanity. Yeah.
That's very similar to something Hitler said about Germany. Germany can't win the war; they don't deserve to survive.
Really? Well, talk about washing your hands. He said at the end, "They are not worthy of me." If you want to look at supreme megalomania, you've got it there. Yes.
Just one thing about Hitler. I read this fascinating book called Hitler and His God, and how he was an extraordinarily mediumistic person, and he had two very distinct natures. One was very timid, very indecisive, and insecure, but he had this entity of some kind that Sri Aurobindo, this book was by a Sri Aurobindo person, identified as a great asura, who was basically incredibly powerful and charismatic and made Hitler somewhat irresistible. Nobody could bend his will. They would come in with all kinds of complaints, he was doing crazy things, and they would just wilt in his presence when he was inspired by this, what he's called the Lord of Nations. It was quite fascinating. They even called Hitler, his closest associates, called Hitler the carpet muncher.
Right.
Because he was so, when he'd go into this state, he was totally... he couldn't control himself, and he would be on the ground chewing the carpet.
Yeah, that's the old story. Threw himself on the ground and chewed the carpet. Well, this fits just with what DK said. He said a very great negative entity overshadowed, obsessed Hitler, and then later, when it was hopeless, that entity left. Hitler lost all of his...
Hitler was on his own.
He was on his own, and so were a number of them. They were just reduced to psychological instability, inability, and the obsessing entities, wherever they were gone. But, to call the thing an asura, Blavatsky dignifies the word asura, but of course, technically it's correct. The privative, and Surya. So without sun. So it makes sense in that sense, although what Blavatsky says is those beings who have been called asuras were really suras.
In ancient India, there was a group which was called Asuras, and they were the ones who were allowing all kinds of desires to come through. So I think that has the basis of that name of Asura. So they were drinking, using drugs, using sex and everything there, but still they were when that evolution started, there were like the high, what is that, caste group. So they were in the very, they were very high in that.
So like fallen angels of a kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They came because it's something about these Naga stories, or that they started with the serpent worshipping and.
Well, we're told
like that.
6 leaders of the Black Lodge in the East, 6 leaders in the West. The ones in the East far more powerful because more experienced. We know that the Nazis went to Tibet to be. It's okay, Glenn. Went to Tibet to find out the Tibetan black magic, and they attempted to employ that. So right there in Tibet, there was a battle between these types. Whether this was really a solar angel type, I don't think so. Asura is a demon, especially, because that's what it means, Asura. So, we probably would be curious to know who it was, but probably we shouldn't attract his attention.
Michael, I just want to mention back to the idea of conscious assailants. Two people that some of you know pretty well. Michael Moore, with his movie on capitalism, is one. It's a marvelous, how do I say, compassionate assailing of capitalism. And David Corton, who you may not know as much, it was a book called Agenda for a New Economy. You know very well. You can't talk to video copy of it. It's a marvelous, pathetic statement about the need to abolish what's called Wall Street capitalism. Marxism reason is brilliantly puts in terms of phantom profits and what's real today. So these two names are people who are very conscious, very powerful individuals. David, if you ever hear him speak, can put language together very rapidly, and it's like listening to some
prophet.
I mean, he's extraordinary. Well, it doesn't prophet, but he's on New Testament line, but it's extraordinary. We heard these things back to back.
Well, you played some of him at the conference.
We did, yeah.
It was very good.
We heard the next side of David at the conference. So.
Nice if he could come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
K-O-R-T-E-N.
But he's an example of one of these disciples who's out there aggressively fighting.
Yeah. And we admire that, don't we?
Oh.
We admire that when we see that happen. So let that be an example to us, to somehow find a way to get out there. Well, tell you what, I think, we have more to say, of course, but I think this is enough. Let's just have our mantra with the new group of world servers, and we'll call it a day. Everybody knows the mantra? If not, I put it up. Whoa.
That's a new one.
Wow.
That's a new one. Well, it's one of those Bible code things.
I think I have a problem. Never mind. I'm just going to count on you. I'm going to count on you knowing it. That's it. Well, I bet I'm checked off down here somewhere. No, I'm not. All right. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all His servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. Okay. Good. Thank you, everybody. We'll resume tomorrow.
Same time?
Yes, 8 o'clock.